please welcome with me our second speaker, Dr. Abdelali Haoudi. He will be talking about building strong clinical trials.
Old, new, and continuing friends. So what you have already heard from the expert, of course, different aspects of clinical trials, but what I will try to do is actually to, this is probably not my slides. This must be other slides. So waiting for that to come, I will put it under the context of the clinical trials, of course, but under the context of the biotech development in the country or overall globally. So in brief, and I'm sure all of you are familiar with the process of drug development. So first, through exploratory research, you identify a target, and then you move into a drug discovery, obviously to tackle that target that you have just identified through exploratory research. Yep, that's me. And so then you move into preclinical testing for PK, the studies, tox studies, and then you move into clinical trials that my distinguished colleagues have just told you about, phase 1, phase 2 onward. And once you prove all of that, and if successful, then your drug or your medical device or diagnostic kit then reach the patient. So it's a long journey. There are a number of pitfalls there. There are a number of challenges. So let me just in these few slides, hopefully within the 20 minutes that I have, I will address some of those items in the context of developing vibrant biotech ecosystem in the country. So this is just to share with you some global statistics, or I'm sure you are aware of, and how the number of clinical trials globally have been increasing until the period of COVID-19, where it has seen some decrease. Now there are a number, of course, of factors that are important for developing a really biotech sector, vibrant biotech sector, whether through for ensuring safe and effective drugs. That's what clinical trials are meant for. And there are a number, of course, of items that have to be first approved, available, that you can ensure really successful clinical trial, ranging from the validity or safety and efficacy of your drug or your medical device. Obviously, after you secure your regulatory agency approval, it's anywhere in the world, whether it's in Saudi Arabia or elsewhere, and those are highly demanding clinical studies in terms of cost. So therefore, really securing sufficient funding can really be a challenge. This is just adding to the challenges that my previous colleagues have already alluded to. The importance, of course, of all this, or I may not have said, but I'm sure by now you know that it takes a minimum 10 years, if not more, to develop one drug, just one single drug, from the early discovery all the way to reach the clinic or the market. Sometimes it's even beyond that, 15 years and plus. That is quite long, and that process is quite expensive. So there is a need really to perhaps come up with new approach to streamline this process, to make it more effective. I'm not saying shortcuts, but to make it more effective and perhaps less costly. Yesterday I was in LEAP. I'm not making publicity for LEAP, but it just mentioned something that is related to this. And there was a strong focus on AI, how AI tools can improve, can streamline number of processes, number of mechanisms, you name it. And one of them is obviously the conduct of clinical trials or even preclinical studies. So maybe, hopefully, and this is to the organizers, hopefully maybe second research day could be focused on these new technologies or emerging technologies, including AI, and it can improve, streamline clinical trials even better. And of course, the idea here is to, at one point, to reach what we used to call personalized. Now it's more of a precision medicine, where the treatment is tailored to the individual rather just looking after the overall symptoms and prescribe it. At the end, the clinical trials cannot be regarded by themselves. They are not a separate island in this ecosystem. They are part of an ecosystem. It's called biotech development or biopharma development. And successful clinical trials, of course, will lead to successful biotech development. And as we talk, as we go through the next few slides, we will tackle some of these key elements in the biotech ecosystem, really. The key word here is ecosystem. So when you look at it really, again, to ensure this biotech development, and just about a year ago, there was an announcement of the National Biotech Strategy that my dear colleague, Dr. Ahmed, has mentioned also on how it's important. But when you want to develop a biotech ecosystem, vibrant ecosystem at a national level, you really need to have all those pillars, strong pillars already there, so that can help really implement the strategy effectively. One of those pillars is obviously strong clinical trial ecosystem, strong regulatory bodies, the ability, of course, to recruit patients, and you have heard already from my previous colleagues on how that could be challenging, yet it's an important part of the process. The process itself, phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3 onward, it is a complex process. It is not just highly regulated, but it's also demanding. It's multifaceted process that can face a number of challenges during the process. And I don't want to go through what my previous colleagues have mentioned as challenges, but this is just in brief. Now let's go through what the clinical trial ecosystem look like from the regulatory framework, including, for instance, institutional review board or ethical committees that my colleague, Dr. Abdallah, already spoke about it so eloquently. And addition to that, of course, is to have access to a sufficient patient pool, patient diversity, to ensure that you are really touching on all the elements of your society, of your population. And okay, slide somehow disappeared. Maybe I will look at it this way. So here you go, it comes back. So you want to test me if I'm following, huh? So I'm with you, I'm with you. And obviously, again, what you want is those studies to benefit your patient, to benefit the overall development of your health sector as a priority. Obviously, ultimately, it will have its economic impact. It's not either one or the other. They lead to each other. Again, it goes without saying that, and I have already mentioned that you need really strong funding for it. And the previous speaker has just maybe given some highlight of how to be successful in generating funding through grants and through other mechanisms, really to be able to successfully conduct your studies. I skip this for the sake of time. Again, here, not wanting to repeat what has been said already by Dr. Ahmed or what you have heard, but the idea here is just to say it's such an ambitious national biotech strategy will succeed only if you have already a strong foundation for it, including a strong clinical trial ecosystem, including really a strong regulatory agency, including also strong R&D ecosystem, all funding mechanisms and so on. And those are already in place. Of course, they are at different level of maturity simply because a number of them are quite young. There's nothing wrong by being young, but they will evolve. But those are the pillars that you need really to ensure that such ambitious national biotech strategy will succeed. Obviously, there are a number of very ambitious goals to achieve in the short term, just within 5 years, or longer term, within 15 years and beyond. And that's what strategy is supposed to do. Now, this is one of my favorite really slides where, although it's so busy, so colorful, but in reality, what I used to do is every other month, I look at what the ecosystem look like and then add in new players. And really it's become busier and busier throughout the last 3 to 4 years. If you look at the bottom of this slide, is actually the new entities that have been, when I say new, those are like last couple of years or so, and those are actually a strong addition to the whole R&D clinical trial ecosystem, and that they will actually, by their efforts, by their impact, they will then ensure a successful implementation of the national biotech strategy. Mentioning, for instance, the Saudi NIH, and I have with me too my dear colleagues also there, or Research Development and Innovation Authority, the NEOM that has been around for some time now with its growing biotech efforts and programs, and obviously, of course, also the nascent Riyadh Biocentral or Riyadh Biotech City, as well as more of a guiding or governing high-level committee that is the National Biotech Committee. When you look at this, and without really wanting to go to the detail, whether it's 200 or 350 or 340, it doesn't matter. But when you look at this is the overall picture of clinical trials in the kingdom. You look at the population, you look at the number, clearly you realize that it's underrepresented. Hopefully by 5 years, instead of reading like there are a few hundreds, we could read that there are thousands of clinical trials that are being conducted. Some of the, of course, obviously I cannot present with such audience without talking or saying something about my institution, KMARC. So we do have, of course, a number of also program initiative contributed, like other institutions in the country, in making really a clinical trials move forward, clinical trials ecosystem move forward from an R&D perspective as an institution, and along, of course, with the regulatory bodies like the Saudi FDA, but also entities like the NIH that are really making impact on making the whole clinical trial ecosystem more vibrant. And on our own, on our own way, would like to contribute and to making this clinical trial so vibrant. So we established a network really of communication, of exchange of expertise, of capacity building. That is the Saudi Clinical Trial Enterprise. Now let's move forward. Those are some of the members of this network. Some of them are government bodies. Others are academic medical centers that are conducting and generating clinical trials. And others are, of course, our partners, the pharmaceutical companies, the biotech companies that play a major role in bringing, whether it's international studies or collaborating with us even in locally based studies. So it's actually, it's a partnership. That's really how it works. It's a continuous partnerships. And I mentioned just, yeah, of course, this is supposed to be a turning slide because those are not just the only partners. There are so many, of course. But I think when the slide was taken, it omitted so many other partners, whether in the pharma or academic or government. So please don't think that those are the only members we have. We have more than these. So for those who perhaps not that familiar with KMARC, we're working at Abdelali International Medical Research Center. We're an academic R&D institution. We do conduct from exploratory or basic fundamental research through translational or preclinical and clinical trials, with, of course, different sites around the country. We have established in KMARC a number of what we call like enabling platforms. And those are basically shared capabilities among our researchers in a number of areas, whether it's, for instance, in biobanking or general biobanking or specific banking of cord blood, as well as clinical trial capabilities. Actually, my colleague sitting with us, which I believe is going to speak right after me, Dr. Majid, who is actually behind even starting and building the whole clinical trial ecosystem in Kmark. So it's really continuous collaboration. A number of other initiatives, obviously, and platforms that we set up. Obviously, they are set up within Kmark. However, we are open for collaboration, partnership with other institutions from around the country and globally as well. Just for the sake of time, maybe passing some of those slides relatively fast. And those are a few examples just to illustrate how the public-private partnership can really have an impact. And here, those selected few, for instance, when we decided to develop our capabilities in vaccine R&D and small-scale manufacturing, our partnership with Pfizer to achieve that, or with Vertex, or I'm sure you have heard about, in terms of the gene therapy for sickle cell, the Casgevy. And of course, another area is in the medical devices or diagnostic kits with an international Korean company, or other partnership as well. So when you look at it, those are snapshots. Those are snapshots just to tell you how many elements or multifaceted is really the biotech ecosystem is and it should be, and the participant really to ensure its success. I'm inserting here, of course, the importance of the precision medicine or personalized medicine, where we heavily really focus there on genomics or genetic sequencing, and not just individual scale, but even large population scale. That's what the Saudi Genome Project is all about. So as you can see, it's, despite the fact that the biotech sector in the country is quite a young or early stage, yet really I believe it is set really to make a strong impact within the next few years. Thanks, of course, not only to the capabilities and capacities being built, but also partnerships. It's extremely important to strengthen those global partnerships in different areas of interest, from early discovery to joint clinical trials, as well as also collaboration in manufacturing and commercialization. How the future look like? Of course, it looks bright. But there are always challenges. You have heard some of the challenges from my colleagues. And those challenges are continuously being addressed, not just because it's here in this country, it's all over the world. You always keep facing challenges as you develop. The only time when you don't face challenges is when you stop developing. So a number of them, and without really wanting to go through the details, but there are strengths, yet there are also challenges that all of us are working on collectively. For instance, as I mentioned earlier, the ability to add to our practices of clinical trials or streamline the process through new innovative technologies like the AI can really make an impact. Hopefully that will be in the short term. Ensuring that there is more funding from different levels, different stream of fundings. I will pass the third one, and I'm not going to start to talk about what Trump is doing or intending to do, but let's move into the other one, with, of course, global challenges that we face as we establish those global international partnerships. Now, like I said, the future is bright, and it's really quite promising. Why? Not because I like to say so, but because all the elements that actually contributing to a successful biotech ecosystem, including strong foundation for clinical trials, is actually improving, is developing further. Despite the challenges that you have heard, which of course are continuously being addressed. But to achieve or to remain in that very positive and optimistic views, there are a number of issues that we continue to address, we will have to continue to address, including some of those, like a faster timeline for processing the clinical trial studies, whether from internally, from within the institutions, or vis-a-vis the regulatory agencies, improved accuracy, hopefully by using different powerful analytical tools, Cost-effective research, again, it's quite expensive. If you say that if we realize that the minimum of bringing that one drug now is $1.5, $2 billion, sometimes even up to $5 billion or beyond, that is quite a heavy investment, really, to bring one drug. And of course, the idea is at the end to make those clinical trials accessible to all the population. Now, this is, of course, almost like a summary of what I have already said or I have already addressed, whether in terms of strengthening the, I think I'm almost already at the zero, whether it's strengthening the R&D ecosystem, adhering to international standards, of course, to maintain the quality and efficacy, but also the global reputation, and invest, or continue to invest in building strong infrastructure and definitely increasing the whether it's local or international global collaborations. And with that, I will stop here, and I hope I did not use a lot of time. Thank you.